ever buy something online, and then return it. Or maybe walked into a store and seen like a whole clearance aisle just overflowing with stuff.
Overflowing, yep.
Bins and bins.
You've basically already entered the world of liquidation pallets, even if you didn't realize it at the time. And that's what we're diving into today. We're going behind the scenes of this whole world to learn how you can actually benefit from this often overlooked corner of retail.
Yeah, it's like almost like a secret language that not everyone's in on,
All right.
but we're going to decode it for you.
Yes.
So think of those mountains, literally mountains of returned items, overstock, or even things that never even made it to the shelves. Like they were
Oh, yeah.
almost there, and then, nope, all bundled up and sold for like pennies on the dollar. That's a liquidation pallet. Okay, so we're talking about potentially amazing deals here. But before we get lost in this daydream of scoring, like a year's worth of designer shoes for the price of a pizza.
Right.
Let's break down exactly. WHY resellers are so obsessed with these pallets.
Yeah, it's not just about the thrill of the hunt, although I have to say,
Oh, it's got to be a little bit.
there's definitely some of that,
Yeah.
like what's in the box. But the real buzz is about the profit, the potential. Like imagine finding a pallet of, say, brand name electronics, maybe even some customer returns that are practically brand new, and you get them for like, I don't know, 20% of what they should cost.
Wait, 20%. Okay, now that's insane.
Yeah.
No wonder people are building entire businesses around this.
Absolutely.
But, our listeners are smart. They're already thinking, what's the catch?
Right. That is the million-dollar question. And yeah, there are definitely some things to be aware of, strategies to follow, and yes, even some traps to avoid.
Oh, there's always tracks.
Always.
Okay.
But that's why you're here. Think of us as your, like, seasoned treasure hunting guides, right?
Yeah.
We're going to help you navigate the map, find the real gems, and steer clear of those, like, tempting but potentially worthless piles of, I don't know.
Fool's gold.
Exactly. Fool's gold.
Yeah. And believe me, you do not want to end up with a pallet full of broken dreams and dented toasters.
No, you don't.
But don't worry, that's why we're here. We're going to give you the insider tips to make sure that doesn't happen to you.
We've got you. We're going to break down this whole process, from finding good sources for these pallets to, like, how do you even read those sometimes really confusing listings? And what do you even do with the stuff you don't sell? We're going to talk about all of it.
It's a business. This is a crash course in Liquidation 101.
It is.
And who knows, maybe this is your ticket to launching that side hustle you've been thinking about.
That's right.
Or even taking a leap into a whole new career path.
Absolutely. It could be.
Stick with us, learner, because things are about to get really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established these pallets are basically like giant grab bags of potential profit.
Yeah.
But let's really break it down for our listeners. They love the details.
They do.
What are some of the specific advantages of jumping into this reselling game?
Well, first off, the variety is incredible.
Okay.
One of the sources we looked at even compared it to a real-life treasure hunt, which I think is so accurate.
Oh, for sure.
Because you really never know. You could find anything from, like, electronics, home goods, clothing, toys, even those weird, like, quirky items that make you kind of scratch your head and say, who buys this? And chances are somebody does. The internet's a weird place.
That's what I love about it. It's like you never know what hidden treasures you're going to uncover.
Right.
But it's not just about the thrill of the unknown, right? This is about building a business.
Right.
Like maybe even quitting your day job someday.
100%, yeah. And that's where, like, the low cost of entry is so appealing for this. Because unlike, say, a traditional retail business where you need to invest a ton of money up front in inventory, with these pallets, you're basically buying in bulk at a fraction of the wholesale price. So that means you can start small, test the waters a little bit, and then scale up as you start to, gain that experience and confidence.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage for, aspiring entrepreneurs who maybe don't have a ton of capital to get started.
For sure.
But speaking of scaling up, what about the people who dream really big? Is there, real potential to turn this into more than just a side hustle?
Absolutely. Like, all of our sources are full of stories about people who started with a single pallet in their garage, and they've grown it into this, thriving online business. Maybe they've got, multiple employees now, warehouses full of inventory.
Wow.
It's all about finding, your niche, understanding what people want, and then putting in the work.
Yeah. So we've got the low startup costs, the crazy variety of products, and the potential for some serious growth.
Yeah.
But let's address the elephant in the room, which is, what about the people who say, this sounds way too good to be true? What's the downside?
Right. Well, it's like any business venture. Success is definitely not guaranteed, right?
Of course.
And there are absolutely some potential pitfalls to avoid, but that's why we're here.
Exactly.
We've gone through all the research, talked to the experts so that you don't have to.
Yeah. We want to make sure you're not just, like, digging around in the dark here.
Yeah.
We're going to be your headlamps, guiding you through all the twists and turns of the liquidation pallet maze.
Yeah, speaking of guidance, let's get into some practical tips. Like, what does every aspiring pallet flipper need to know before they even, think about taking the plunge? Our sources highlighted 5 key considerations
5.
to
Okay.
keep in mind as you embark on this journey.
Okay, let's hear them. Give us the golden nuggets of wisdom.
Okay, so first and foremost, starting small is crucial, especially when you're just getting started.
Okay.
Don't feel like you have to go out and buy a whole truckload right away.
Right.
Start with maybe a smaller pallet or even a few individual items just to kind of get a feel for the process, the condition of the stuff, test your reselling skills a bit.
It's like a test run.
Yeah, exactly.
Better to make a few small mistakes
Exactly.
than dive headfirst into a mountain of misfit toys or something.
Exactly. And speaking of mistakes, let's talk about those overhead costs, because one common mistake that I see beginners making is they underestimate the hidden expenses involved in this.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the price of the pallet itself, it's things like shipping, storage, packaging materials, even the cost of your time, right?
Oh, those hidden costs, they really sneak up on you.
They do.
Any tips on how to keep those expenses, in check?
Absolutely. One of our sources, a very, very seasoned reseller, she actually recommended writing down all of your potential costs before you even think about bidding.
Oh, smart.
So that means shipping dimensions, weight, the potential for returns, damaged items. It's always better to overestimate a little bit and be pleasantly surprised than the other way around.
Yeah, that is some solid advice. So we've got starting small and keeping those hidden costs top of mind. What else should our listeners be thinking about?
Well, research. Just like with any online business, you've got to do your homework.
Oh, yeah.
You need to know your liquidator, their reputation, their return policies.
That's key.
Yeah, it's like choosing a dance partner. You want someone you can trust.
And somebody who won't step on your toes.
Exactly.
Okay, but seriously, how can our listeners even find these reputable sources for these pallets in the first place?
That is a great question. There are a ton of online marketplaces now, like platforms that are dedicated to connecting resellers with liquidators.
Oh, wow.
One source mentioned name of website, which is specifically designed for beginners, so that's cool. And they have a huge variety of pallets from all the major retailers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And don't forget about local auctions. Sometimes those are good.
Right. Yeah.
Even just networking. You never know who might have a lead on a great pallet deal.
It's like we're uncovering a secret society of treasure hunters or something.
A little bit.
Minus the eye patches and the parrots, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. But for real, finding a good source is absolutely critical for building a successful reselling business.
Okay, so we've got our sources, we're being mindful of costs, and now we're ready to start bidding on those pallets. What happens next?
That's where the real fun begins. But before you get totally lost in a sea of bubble wrap and packing peanuts,
Oh, yeah.
let's talk strategy.
Okay. Bring on those winning strategies. Our listeners are eager to turn these pallets into profits.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so we've navigated the high seas of sourcing. We've learned how to spot those hidden costs, the ones lurking just below the surface.
Right.
And now it's time to haul in the big one, turning these pallets into cold, hard profit. So what's the game plan?
Well, the first thing that all of our sources really emphasized is that, buying a pallet, even at a crazy discount, that doesn't mean you're automatically going to strike gold.
Yeah.
It's not like those old treasure maps where,
X marks the spot.
exactly, X marks the spot and then boom, instant. Right.
Right.
You actually have to know what to do with the treasure once you found it.
So we're done with just blindly digging for buried treasure chests.
Yeah.
We gotta be a little smarter than that.
A little bit smarter, yeah. This is where those research skills come in.
Yes.
One of our sources recommended using Google Trends
Okay.
to see what products are actually in demand right now.
Oh, smart.
So it's almost like using a metal detector
Right. Yeah.
to pinpoint the most valuable treasures on your pallet.
Yes. So instead of just hoping we stumble upon something good, we're using actual data to guide our treasure hunt.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, what else can we do to make sure we're not stuck with a giant pile of, like, unwanted trinkets at the end of this?
Well, pricing.
I see.
Pricing is key.
Of course.
It's all about finding that sweet spot. You want to price competitively enough to attract buyers,
Hmm.
but not so low that you're like making pennies after all your expenses.
Yeah. Right, because nobody wants to be working for free, even if it means, getting to play with cool stuff all day.
Exactly. So one of our sources, he's like this eBay selling master. He swears by what he calls like the 80-20 rule.
Okay, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. So he focuses on pricing like 80% of his inventory to sell really fast, even if it means slightly lower profit margins.
Oh, yeah.
And then he reserves that 20% for like the high ticket items.
Ooh, the ones that
The ones that.
bring in the big bucks.
Exactly.
So it's all about balance.
Yeah.
Like getting those quick wins, but also like holding out for the rare gems, the ones that are really going to make that treasure chest overflow.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so what about actually selling this stuff? Like once we've got it, any tips for getting it out there in front of those eager buyers?
That's where marketing comes in.
Well,
Yeah. Marketing.
and the great news is there are more ways to do it than ever.
Right?
Right.
That's true.
So our sources mentioned everything from like making really eye-catching listings
Okay.
on places like eBay and Facebook Marketplace to, even using social media
Oh, yeah, for sure.
like Instagram or TikTok to really show off your products.
Right. Make them look good. Okay, that's great. So we've got our research, we've got our pricing, our marketing plan, everything's in place. Before we send our listeners off on their own treasure hunting adventures, any like final words of wisdom, maybe some warnings about common pitfalls they can avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. One mistake I see people make all the time is like overestimating the condition of their items.
Yeah.
Just because something looks good in a photo doesn't mean it's actually like in pristine condition in real life.
Oh, for sure. So always, always, always be really honest in your descriptions
Yes.
and make sure you factor in like the potential for a return.
Transparency. That's key. Because nobody wants to like be hit with some kind of surprise defect after they've already gotten their hopes up.
Exactly. And the other thing is, don't like put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
You don't want to just list on one platform and call it a day.
Right.
Explore all your options. Think about different marketplaces, maybe even like local flea markets, consignment shops. Get creative with it.
Yeah. It's like having like multiple treasure maps. They all lead to different treasure-filled islands, but the more options you have,
The better.
the better your chances of actually like striking gold.
Exactly. And I think most importantly, remember that this is a business, right? And it takes time, it takes work,
For sure.
but it also should be fun.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged if you don't see like crazy results right away.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. Just be curious, learn as you go, and enjoy the process.
I love that because at the end of the day, it really is about more than just like turning a profit. It's about the thrill of the hunt,
Yeah.
the satisfaction of building something from nothing, and hey, maybe even uncovering a hidden treasure or two along the way, right?
Absolutely.
We've covered a ton of ground today. I mean, we're talking everything from the ins and outs of what even IS a liquidation pallet to the actual strategies that can turn this whole thing into a profitable venture. And don't worry, we're going to link to all those resources that we mentioned,
Yeah.
plus, some extra reading down in the show notes for you.
Always.
So go out there, explore those online marketplaces, and let's see what treasures you can uncover. Until next time, happy hunting.